Welcome to this webinar focused on the opportunities and challenges about building a career in food. We're pleased that you've joined us today. A few housekeeping items for this webinar. There will be some time for questions at the end when we will open the chat feature. If you have questions that arise during the webinar, we would encourage you to tweet them with the hashtag #MABWebinar. We will enter them into the queue. Contact information will be listed at the end of the webinar, and recordings of our proceedings will also be available. I'm Deborah Cole, coordinator of the MAB program, and we will hear from two MAB alumni, Miguel Marcano and Eric Putnam, today. This webinar is sponsored by the Master of Agribusiness program at K-State. Established in 1998, our flexible hybrid program tailored to individuals working full-time in all areas of food, agriculture, and animal health has reached more than 425 students. Our students come to us with a bachelor's degree, 2 years of professional experiences, and having completed some academic prerequisite coursework. The companies and agencies our employees work for indicate that the skills our graduates hone while in the program directly impact their teams, divisions, and companies in a positive way. Through our program, our students develop a thorough understanding of the macro and microeconomics impacting the food, ag, and animal health supply chain. They better understand the business principles their companies use each day and are able to analyze the current situation and future opportunities. Through our program, students network across all areas of industry and are able to bring that network to bear when making decisions and executing strategy. This webinar arose out of an increased interest in the MAB program by individuals working in food and ingredients. We have with us today Miguel Marcano and Eric Putnam. Miguel earned a Bachelor in Business and an MBA from the Universidad Metropolitana in Caracas, Venezuela, and a Master in Agribusiness from Kansas State University. His thesis was entitled "Developing a Procurement Support Tool for a Laundry Soap Bar Manufacturing Facility in Venezuela." Prior to his current role at Kroger, Miguel was the raw material coordinator from Empresas Polar in Latin America, where he led global sourcing activities for 12 manufacturing facilities in Venezuela, Colombia, Chile, and Peru, originating products from Europe, Asia, North America for over 15 years. He also held other positions as Finance and Planning Coordinator, Risk Management Coordinator, and Treasury Manager. Currently, Miguel is working as a Global Sourcing Senior Leader for our brands. Miguel is responsible for developing and implementing sourcing strategies for finished products in categories like grocery, natural foods, and health and beauty care. He resides in Mason, Ohio with his wife and his 2 children. Eric Putnam earned his Bachelor of Science in Food Science from Kansas State University. He has worked for Wixon since 1994 in several different positions, such as Analytical Quality Control Technician, Assistant to the Director of Analytical Quality Control Labs, and as well as being Supervisor for the Analytical Laboratory. Today, he's the Food Safety and Systems Assurance Director. His MAB thesis was titled Analysis of an Automation of Bulk Packaging Line at Wixon. This last year has involved a great deal of international work and travel for Eric, which he will share a little bit about today. Miguel, I turn it over to you.
Thanks, Deborah. And probably would say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're located today. I'm actually in Cincinnati this morning and wanted just to go through this brief presentation. Deborah was referring to, I actually work in a retail environment. I work for the Kroger company here in Cincinnati. And some of the things I wanted to share today is related to some of the challenges that personally I see, and as a company we probably could be looking at. I definitely also would like to talk to you guys a little bit about the global competition and what we refer as a company and what we refer as the what we like to call sometimes a CPG within a retailer environment. Think about the Cohort company. We also operate manufacturing facilities across the United States. And definitely, just to close my comments around specific of my experience with the program and some high level. If we go to, like I mentioned, the agenda, that's what you guys are going to be referring to and listening from me today. But if I would like to go to Deborah slide number 3, which is specific to 3 main topics that I'd like to refer today, which is food safety, sustainability, and social accountability or social responsibility. Those are fairly main topics. Some people like to call it as challenges. I like to call it those as opportunities when it comes to the retail environment or the food environment. Think about in today's retail world, demand is growing in the food side. We have consumption that is certainly not limited to geographical preference. I mean, some of you like sushi, and you can have sushi. Think about all the ingredients that goes to sushi, and you can have sushi anywhere in the world today. And you're probably in a country that have no even any coastal barriers, and you're having that. Quinoa, palm oil is just an example of things when it comes to preference and geographical preference, and what that means to demand that is growing across the world, right? Recycling. Think about the importance of recycling and carbon footprint, and we're talking about sustainability and also how we represent and how we can influence the industry around that. Think about the resources that are sometimes limited in some countries or some specific manufacturing countries, and what does that mean to maximize or increase productivity in today's
Miguel, we've lost sound from you. While we're waiting to resolve the sound issue with Miguel, we'll go ahead and move to Eric Putnam and his presentation regarding his experiences at Wixon. Eric, are you ready?
I am ready. Everybody hear me okay? Deborah, you can hear me okay?
Sounds fantastic. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Hi, everybody. Hey, thanks for coming out today to this webinar. My name is Eric Putnam. I'm the Food Safety and Systems Assurance Director at Wixon Incorporated. I've been here, like Deborah said, since '94, so I'm working on my 23rd year. I'm super excited today to come out and talk to you about MAB and how it's affected me and how it's helped me build my career to where it is. So. Let's get started. Deborah, you have control of the slides, right? Okay. Like I said here, I'm Food Safety Systems Assurance Director. Been here 23 years, and I'm very K-State proud, as it says there. I got my Bachelor's of Science when I was 42 years old in food science, and then decided I liked it so much. And you'll see in my presentation, I discussed that I'm very, I really like to challenge and round out my career and my skill set. So the one thing I didn't really know a lot about in food science was the business portion of food. So I challenged myself to try business and tried the Masters of Agribusiness, because to me that was the best fit for the food industry. Next slide. All right. Our quick history on Wixon. It was founded in 1907 by Charles Franklin Wixon in Chicago. He pushed a hand cart of spices throughout the Chicago packing house area, or I guess it was horse-drawn here it was, but he sold spice blends to the sausage makers in the packing houses in the Chicago district right around that time of the jungle. You know, Upton Sinclair's book. In the 80s, we changed our name to Wixon Fonarome because we were acquired by a French-owned Fonarome company. They did a lot of pharmaceuticals and flavors and so forth, and they wanted to get into the spice and seasoning trade. Later, then in more towards 2000, 2004, it was sold to the CEO, the CFO, and the VP of Sales, and we changed our name strictly to Wixon. And Fonarome went their own direction, and we are now a privately held company here in St. Francis, Wisconsin, which is right near Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So I was asked to talk about, what are the challenges in the spice and seasoning industry in the next 5 years? And to me, the big three challenges I see right now, being a food safety person and being in quality assurance, are really foreign supplier verification, which is the FDA telling us that our foreign suppliers that we buy from have to have the same same level of food safety as we have here in the United States. As you can imagine, with spices, and you'll see in my presentation, with spices, we really import a lot of our raw materials. The next big challenge is free from claims. Free from GMOs, free from allergens, free from non-organic. Those types of free from claims, those make our life very, very challenging for scheduling and for sales and all of that, and sourcing product. And last is really ready-to-eat foods. They're everywhere. More and more foods you typically are used to being not ready to eat are ready to eat. Someone may grab that frozen pizza and just thaw it right out, eat it. A lot of times now they even have pizzas that are already cooked. Or sausages that are already cooked, but then they're a ready-to-eat product. So as a seasoning and spice supplier, we really have to look carefully at how our end users use things. So those are the big challenges I see coming up here. So let's talk a little bit further about foreign supplier. This is a picture that one of our auditors, our analytical lab director, actually went to India and took this picture. This is how red peppers are processed in India. This is how they're picked and sorted. Many countries, all of your spices are sorted like this. Many of them are not cultivated. They're picked and grown wild, or they're in small villages on little plots, and then they're all brought together in huge amounts and then sun-dried and then sorted this way. The spice trade is one of the oldest markets in the world. It can be traced way back to BC times. Commerce and trading, it's been used for commerce, for trading, even used in the ancient days for paying ransoms. They'd hold someone hostage and they'd get the ransom through spices. Multiple countries and continents indulge and grow spices. U.S. does some too. We have some here, a lot of garlic and other herbs and spices here, but the majority of them really are in Europe and Asia and Africa, and a lot of the islands too, Caribbean islands and so forth. Jamaica, for example, has probably the best allspice in the world. The discovery of American continent by European explorers was because they were looking for a route to compete against the Silk Road. They were looking for spices. They thought, they went west to try to go east, and they ran into the United States. So it's really out there. We jokingly say here at Wixon in the spice trade that spice traders are the original pirates, and that's not to besmirch the name of them, but it's just that's how far back it goes, and they're so engrossed in shipping and overseas travel that it's kind of a running joke we have. Spice trade is very small agricultural businesses, all kind of come together, primarily in developing countries, so there's not a lot of food safety rules there. These are, a family that goes and picks, their livelihood is picking cloves or picking garlic and then bringing it to a depot and gathered together. There are some crops that are grown by larger farmers, but really it's the majority of them is large number of very small farmers. Recently in China, I went to look at onion and garlic fields, and each of them are about a hectare by 1 hectare each. So those farmers have a real small plot, and that's their livelihood. So there's some incentive for them to have high quality and high food safety, but there's also some lack of technology in many areas. There are a ton of intermediates in the supply, and anybody who knows supply chain and the controls that need to be put into supply chain, that's an important aspect of the food safety and sourcing of spices. So here's a quick picture or diagram of all the different areas that spicing. So it comes from the farm, then it gets collected by somebody, then it goes to a processor, then it goes to a shipper, and then it'll go to an agent for us, and then an importer or dealer, and then a broker, and then a grinder, and then to us. Sometimes we're the grinder, sometimes we send it to another grinder, then it comes to us. And what Wixon's done is my team works on taking all those variables out of each of those steps where food safety and quality and many times price can impact the business. Sometimes for us, though, because we are quality and food safety, we may add a little price, but we can work with our these different levels of the supply chain to really build up partnerships and just strengthen the whole process and the whole line of events. Moving on to the next challenge, we talked about the free from. We're talking more and more. We have customers who come to us and say, I want this sausage blend, or I want this snack chip blend, this seasoning. I want it to be non-GMO. I want it to be gluten-free. I want it to be organic, and I want there to be no allergens. It's really good. I mean, it's nice to have that variety in the marketplace, but from a processing point of view, it makes things very difficult. I mean, some of the huge issues and requirements that come into play here are things like scheduling properly so you don't have allergens with non-allergens where you can make a food safety issue, or keeping GMO or non-GMO products away from products that contain genetically modified organisms. It makes it very difficult for R&D to source things the proper way. It makes it hard for purchasing, our procurement department, to find quality, safe products, especially when we get to the organic. There's lots of great organic companies out there, but sometimes the amounts that we need and the specialty items we need, it's very tough to find an organic manufacturer of herbs and spices or vegetables, dehydrated vegetables that can supply to us in a consistent manner. So that can make things difficult. It also, like I said before with allergens, it makes food safety systems very difficult. If we're making a blend that is egg-free and there's another blender nearby that's doing egg, we have to make sure that all the guards are up so nothing is commingled, there's no cross-contact, all the washing is done the right way. So there's a lot of checking and pre-operational checks and so forth that can make things very difficult. And the scheduling, you have so much time in your day for operating that it can, you have 8 hours or you have 16 hours of operating time, and each blend may take an hour or two, but then every time you add a changeover it can take more time, so it makes your throughput change quite a bit. Next slide. There we go, excellent. Ready to eat, that's our next big challenge. We've been making ready to eat products here at Wixon for quite some time, but it gets to be a higher, we're seeing a lot more requests for it and a lot more interesting different requests. A lot of nutritional shakes are coming. A lot of people want to have a new nutritional shake of some sort that's got high protein or whatever, and all these are ready to eat. Then you start to add things like probiotics and things like that, and they can really change up your game plan. For sure, the biggest issue with ready-to-eat products is the pathogen risk increases. If things are ready to eat and they haven't already been treated, they're going to a product that's ready to eat, there's no kill step along the way. So we have to work closely with our customers and our vendors to make sure that items are either getting treated through heat or steam or irradiation or something like that in order to make sure it's safe when it gets to the customer. And to the consumer, ultimately, the consumer. We have to rezone the facility. You have to make zones where someone who's working ready to eat doesn't go over into the non-ready to eat, and vice versa, especially from a something where they're making a blend that's for cooking. That'll have an end kill step, should not come back to the ready to eat section. And I know there's a lot of parts of the industry out there, meat, vegetable, that have been doing this for a long time. And for spices, this is kind of a newer thing for some of us. When you start off this company who makes sausage seasoning, there's a kill step, and there's a pretty solid kill step in there for any kind of pathogens. For us, as we get more and more, and these blends get more and more complex, it changes. I mean, the biggest challenge for us right now with this ready-to-eat is a lot of seasonings, chip seasonings, and snack seasonings have flour in them. Well, flour does not come from the grain millers as a ready-to-eat product. It needs to be baked or cooked because that's how they're used to selling it. So we've had to work with them and work on our end with some of our suppliers to find ways to make that flour safe but yet still functional. That kind of rezoning and risk is always there. The last bit of this that we really work very strongly on, and I do a lot of this with training, is changing the employee practices. We have employees here at Wixon who, I'm here 23 years. We have some of them been here 40 years, and they've done things one way. And I think back to one of my MAB classes on, there's one on, managing of personnel in there, and it's a fantastic class, and I take a lot away from that on how to work on change management and management of change, how to change people's thinking. And we use that a lot here to help when we change up our practices. And with ready-to-eat, that's one of the main ways to help ensure that we have safe ready-to-eat products is through keeping employees engaged and trained and changing their ways to think critically and safely. All right, so how did MAB help me? Wow, I got to tell you, I don't want to sound like a homer here or a paid person, because I'm not. I'm an alum that just thinks it's one of the greatest things that I've done with my life. One of the greatest successes, besides my children and my wife. My thesis, how did it help me? My thesis that I wrote is currently being used to help upgrade. We're actually, my owner and CEO actually said, Eric, I've read your thesis, I have some questions, let's do this thing. So that's one of the greatest things in the world to me. I really wanted to do a thesis where it meant something to my company, and it really does. We're working on putting a whole new set of equipment that's going to help make things efficient and safer, and just overall improve the business, and I'm very proud of that. It is very clearly to me rounded out my understanding of the food industry. Business was not my strong point, and I bet if you went back and asked Dr. Featherstone on that first week I had of corporate finance, he might have looked at some of my grades and said, "Wow, Eric, are you sure you want to do this?" But they helped me through it all, and I got through it. And, very happily got through it. It did lead to my direct promotion to director. I got my graduation, and 2 months later I was promoted. So it worked directly to help me. I learned a ton about policy in what I do in food safety. I have a small team, but I'm in charge of making food safety decisions for a lot of other departments in my company, and I've learned a ton about policy and what works and what doesn't work, and kind of the downfalls. Decision making, I learned a lot about that it's not made in a vacuum, that it's important to me that the operations employees, those floor employees you might call them, hands-on, those entry level, their world, you need to know their world, and you need to know the executive's world, and find a decision that pleases the most amount of people, but like I said about policy, that I learned a lot. One of the things I learned from Dr. Wilson is that for every policy, there's a winner and there's a loser. There's never a policy where everybody wins, and so you have to kind of find and manage that. A colleague of mine always says, walk a mile in another person's shoes. That way, if they disagree with you, you're a mile away and they're barefoot, so then they can't bother you. What skills I use most often? I do actually use corporate finance quite often for project decisions. We're currently working with the CFO. I'm helping with a make versus buy to do a new technology here. So we can buy it from some people, but we're trying to decide, should we just make it ourselves and maybe get that corner of the market too. Decision-making tools, optimization, econometrics. I actually use them. I never thought in a million years I would use econometrics. It was a fun class and challenging, but I use it. I use everything I learned about spreadsheets. I use every day. I use challenge tests for things I set up. I use a lot there. Dr. Wilson's theory on policies, or quote, theory on policies, that there's winners and there's losers. I use that constantly, and I teach that to people here. It really rounded out all this rounded out my science skills with business, and it's made me see how other people in the business work, and what their motivators are, and how can I work with those motivators to get what the company needs and what I need to make the company successful from a food safety and quality assurance point of view. All these, I used all those things on my thesis, and we're using my thesis like I had said earlier, so it's a very, very exciting thing for me. Scary, but exciting. So just a picture of in use. This is me in April in China, a greenhouse with green peppers and tomatoes, checking them out and doing audits. Big part of my job is doing international audits. So far it's mostly been China, but next year I believe I'm headed to India, to Vietnam, and probably to Peru for quinoa. What I wish I'd known. I wish I'd known that picture of me there. You can't miss me. I'm the gray-haired guy in the middle of the picture. I wish I'd known that would have been such a big changing point for me in my life. I'd have done it sooner. That's all. The level of care by the staff and faculty is second to none. I was so scared going into this, and every day, day to day, they kept to make sure, are you doing okay? Assignments. If you were stuck on an assignment, there was always somebody there to help. They're still there to help to this day. I can call any one of those professors, and they'll, if they're in house, they'll help me out. My thesis was what I thought. It was so much stress to me needlessly in the beginning. I really enjoyed doing my thesis, and when I got done, it was one of the proudest days of my life that I got done with that. You couldn't wipe the smile off my face with a shotgun, I don't think. Invaluable connections. I can see in that picture of me, there's a person on each side of me there that I worked with. Jennifer is one of them. The young lady to the left of me in that picture. She's one of the most wonderful people I've ever met, and to this day I can call her or text her, email, Facebook, and ask her a question. She's there to help. My connections with the university are always there. It is really a family, and it's such a great resource to have when you're working in your job, in your career. Econometrics was really fun. I know a lot of people talk about Dr. Fox's econometrics, and it's a different concept, but boy, it taught me a lot. I may not use it as much directly as he did, but the whole building models of business and decisions is fantastic. And lastly, what I wish I'd known the Kansas State family was so big. Everywhere I've gone, every trip I've ever been on, I went to China last month, and I was in the airport in Beijing, and someone came up to me and gave me a hug and said Wildcats. So that's crazy. I mean, everywhere I go, it's not just Kansas, it's in Wisconsin here and everywhere. It is a fantastic, well-rounded program that really to me, it was better than any liberal arts degree I could have gotten. It really was well-rounded, and everybody is so open to help you and work with you. It's been fantastic. That's all I have, which I think I probably talked a ton there. But if there's any questions later, please feel free to ask me. If there's contact information, contact me. I'd be happy to answer any questions or get into more details of things where I can. And thank you very much for the opportunity.
So I did visit with Miguel. The phones went down in the facility he is at today. So he will be recording his section of the webinar at a later date, probably next week, and I will get a recording of that out to everyone who signed up for the webinar, and it will also be on our YouTube stream. So if you're interested in pursuing the MAB program, we are currently accepting applications. Our January 2018 cohort is filling up, but we do have a few spots that are left, and we'd be happy to consider you as a student. You can see that we do begin classes in January, and the first 3 classes you take start with an on-campus session. Then you return home and complete that coursework from a distance, returning to campus in March for another on-campus session, and then a short break before you roll into the rest of your classes for year 1. October 15th is technically the deadline for applications, but we have received a waiver from the graduate school and can process applications through December. So as long as you have something in place, an application begun by October 15th, we're in good shape. Following that, the next upcoming opportunity will be August 2018. That is our animal health cohort. It does meet at our Olathe campus in the Kansas City metro area. Application deadline for that cohort is June 1st. The tuition for the program is $30,000 for entry in January or August. That does include 12 courses, your distance education software, your thesis coursework, and then all of your textbooks and course notes. Additionally, we receive job postings and job listing opportunities from a variety of companies, both those who put students through the MAB program and also those with whom we've worked in a professional level in other places. We do offer those and send those out. If you're interested in receiving job listings or postings, please let me know. I'll be happy to add you to that mailing list. Also, we do have a professional development event that is coming up in October at K-State Olathe's campus. The dates for that are October 19th and 20th. We have Bruce Tulgan coming to speak about managing change generationally and invested management and leadership. We also added a session. It will be a point-counterpoint conversation on policy between 2 legendary faculty members in the agricultural policy area. That'd be Dr. Barry Flinchbaugh and Dr. Edelman from Iowa State University. They'll be participating in a lively debate on Friday, so we're very excited about that. Also, we do have short courses and trainings that are available. If you're interested in those, please reach out and contact me. For more information about the Master of Agribusiness program, our contact information is here. You can also visit our website. I'd also be happy to put you in touch with our guest speakers from today. And if you have questions, now would be a great time to put those on Twitter or ask them directly. Eric will be connecting you with Randy Hobart to learn more about our ready-to-eat applications for flour.
Okay, thank you. I'd be happy to discuss it with them.
Let me quickly check our Twitter feed and see if we have any questions that have come in that way. And seeing none, we will go ahead and end the webinar for today. If you do have questions, please let me know. I'll be happy again to connect you with both Eric and Miguel, and please watch your email for a link to the additional recording of Miguel later. Thank you very much for being with us today, Eric, and thank you everyone for joining us.